All right, my name's Matt Barr, and you are listening to episode 100A of the Looking Sideways Action Sports podcast, the show where I try and uncover the most fascinating stories in action sports and other related endeavours. Thanks for listening to and or downloading this episode of the show, and I hope you enjoy it. One for the purists, that opener. And for the purposes of the rest of this intro, I'm going to assume you'll be listening to both parts of this episode 100 bonanza. Because, yeah, that's right, like somebody having a landmark birthday that never ends. Yep, I did do that on my 40th birthday. I've decided to mark this moment in truly self-indulgent fashion by releasing 2 episodes at the same time and calling them both episode 100. Now, I did mention that plan to an old friend of mine the other day, and he looked at me and said, you know that's not how numbers work, right? You can't have an 100A and 100B. Well, he's right, of course, but then I'm right too because it's my podcast and I'll do what I want, and that means doing just that in this case. And the thing is, for this ascension to triple figures, I wanted to do something that would stoke my loyal listeners out and nod to the spirit of the podcast that's been developing over the last 100 episodes, which meant interviewing 2 people who represent 2 different parts of our little world. Danny MacAskill for episode 100A and Nicholas Muller for episode 100B. You in? All right, let's go then. So to episode 100A, which you're listening to now, and my guest for this one is Danny MacAskill. He is, of course, a professional street trials bike rider who's one of the great stars of the viral age, really. And in many ways, his career is emblematic of the way that action sports and the wider media landscape have evolved over the last decade. Because Danny, as most of you will probably know, first came to fame with the release of his first film 10 years ago. It was a short he put together with some mates around Edinburgh. And as Danny's been on record saying for years now, he expects it to go absolutely nowhere beyond his immediate circle of friends. And to say that he was wrong on this front would be to flirt fairly dramatically with understatement, because the thing went fucking mental. I remember it well because this was about the time Twitter started to become a real cultural force. And it was really that medium that enabled the film to become the defining viral hit of that particular period. I mean, when Stephen Fry and Lance Armstrong are tweeting your film, you really have reached an exalted level of global reach and cut through. So it was that Danny's career was launched, with Red Bull picking him up soon after, among other many sponsors. Now, I met Danny around that time at an event I was working on for Red Bull and found him to be a dazed, affable and generally lovely lad who was trying to get his head around the strange turn of fate that had changed his life. And like everyone else I then watched on us for the next decade, Danny released a string of films that seemed to creatively and effortlessly raise the bar with each release. Naturally, I've been keen to get him on the podcast for years, and as the months passed, I began to think that he'd be the perfect guest for episode 100. Happily, he was keen, so in August 2019, myself and Owen headed up to Edinburgh to meet him and record this episode. I was keen to hear the whole story, and above all, to get his own perspective on the whole crazy last decade. So that's what we did, and here's how it went down. Me and Danny MacAskill, Decade. Enjoy. How's it going? You good?
Very good, thanks. Yes.
Yeah. How's the knee?
It's doing all right. I just had a little crash in doing our shows here in the Meadows just the other day, and I have torn my meniscus, this time in my good knee, which is actually quite good because my left knee couldn't take much more of this. But
right.
And then I've ruptured a ligament of some kind and fractured a little bit of bone, but it's actually not. It's not giving me too much swelling, so I'm still able to ride a little bit on it.
And that's on that really like kind of innocuous little slam that you just showed me on the video.
That's always the way, I think. I mean you're never expecting crashes.
Yeah.
And usually if it's the big tricks, you're kind of geared up for.
Yeah.
I don't know. You'll have a bit more. You're a bit more ready to react to it, maybe. But it's always the little ones, like breaking your toes in the bottom of your bed, or
yeah, it looked like you kind of just caught your foot and then went over weirdly on it, maybe.
Yeah, just basic stuff.
But. Yeah. So what's the crack? Can you ride now? Because you're doing a bit of riding, right? On the
yesterday I tried to ride again. Like I saw, got scans on it last Thursday, and just gonna just try it out.
Yeah.
To try it out in the shows. I rode yesterday, didn't swell up too much. It's not actually that painful, which is good. but it's usually just when you start getting fluid in your knee.
Yeah.
That's usually the kind of when you start getting issues with it not being able to flex right and all that. But I was doing some balance stuff in the shows and basically just trying to show face.
Yeah, have you got someone that can come in then and do your main part?
Yeah, I've got my other flatmate, Ali Clarkson, jumped in to save the day, so he's doing some of the bigger stuff that I was doing in the shows.
Right.
And I might work my way back up. We'll see how it reacts these next few days, and then I'm not usually. I mean, usually you're riding on injuries. This is the kind of one I'd probably rest a little bit more, but we're right in the middle of doing 25 shows.
Yeah, you're quite committed, aren't you, really?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a bad time.
They're all sell out as well, so there's a lot of people relying on it and things. So
looks like it's been going well.
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, I mean, it's our first time doing shows in Edinburgh with Drop and Roll, which is quite crazy because this is kind of where it all began for me here in the Meadows. And
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years ago. So it's really cool to be back here with Drop and Roll, and especially part of the festival. Yeah, it's kind of something we talked about for ages, and finally it's working.
Did you try and make it like a bit more of an involved production then?
And it's been something quite different for us because we usually travel all over Europe and the world with our current setup that goes in the back of a trailer. Yeah. But in the big top, we're in here down in the Meadows, it's a much tighter area than we would use if we were outdoors or had our normal space. It's about half the size. So we've had to figure out a more theatrical show where we've got obstacles coming in and out.
Yeah, right. So the changeover between bringing bits in and out and how that works.
Yeah, and of course it's the festival, so there's a little bit more competition than if you're doing like a show at a festival or a high footfall event, let's say, somewhere in the continent. So it's when people are paying to come and see you, you feel like you need to make it a little bit more of a show. Yeah.
So how long does it take to prepare for something like this then? Because obviously you've got the concept, haven't you, of Drop and Roll. It's like 4 years old, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah. I mean, myself and my friend Duncan Shaw, that we've been running, or we've been doing shows together for years, and we kind of wanted to do something that was a little bit bigger and better than the stuff we had done before, or try to make the sort of coolest trial show we could. Yeah. So we just have all these kind of boxes and ramps that go in the back of a trailer. We have a really good commentator, Henry Jackson, who comes from the snow world. Yeah. Doing all this kind of commentating.
Last night he looked pretty tired as well.
Yeah, he's been really. I mean, he really is running the show. I mean, he's got definitely the hardest job. He's talking for a solid hour.
Doesn't lack energy, that lad.
No. Yeah. So he's really good, and we just kind of tried to make it a little bit of fun. It's almost a little bit kind of slapstick, kind of there's a little bit almost panto in there.
Yeah. It comes across actually.
Yeah, because did you see the show yesterday?
No, but we missed it actually.
Oh, did you?
Because our flight was an hour and a half delayed.
Ah, nightmare.
So we got here, I think it was about 20 minutes ago, and then, it was pretty annoying to be honest. We could hear Henry.
Nightmare. Sorry, guys. Well,
no, I've seen like the stuff online and that.
Yeah.
No, we were gutted. We were like, it was one of them. We were on the plane, just like, oh fuck, because we got on the plane. And they were like, so we're going to take off in an hour. And we were just, because it was pretty tight anyway. Yeah. And we were a bit like, oh, fucking hell. So I missed it, unfortunately. But yeah, chatted to Henry last night, though. And he was explaining, I mean, it just sounds like it's been quite a lot of work, really, to prepare for it. And
it has. I mean, it's, a lot. There's been a lot of work in quite a short amount of time. I mean, we've got the basic show that we tour with. So we all, writing-wise, we kind of know a fair bit what we were going to do. It was just trying to kind of organize it in a different way in here, and then we built some new features, and of course we brought in BMX as well, which is by far the biggest kind of challenge in that space. Was building some new ramps. One of them had to be made out of perspex because it's viewable from 3 sides, so we had to have some ramp that didn't block the crowd.
Sure.
So that was quite a sort of nightmare to build.
Seems like you quite enjoy this side of it though, like these technical challenges with this, obviously with this project, but with a lot of the stuff that you do.
I mean, for sure.
There's a problem-solving element to it, right?
Yeah, for sure for the videos. And with the shows. The shows are a little bit different. It's more just like, it's good when you get it done. It kind of lasts a long time, you kind of go with it. But for sure for the videos. You know, if it was easy, then probably wouldn't make it into the videos. It's cool to come up with stuff that you really don't know if it's possible until you go there and do it. So
yeah. So is that a big part of how you like come up with the concepts to sort of set yourself a challenge? That
a little bit. I mean,
I'm kind of thinking of the barrel roll in Danny Daycare as well, because that with the trailer, something like that, because that looks.
It's,
you know,
what I mean. The way they kind of go around the sort of video process is, I try not to do. I try with each video, try not to make something that can be compared to the last one.
Yeah, well, they're all really distinct, aren't they?
Yeah, I try to sort of make the films as if we've never made a film before.
Right.
And if somebody came across it, they're kind of getting something hopefully a little bit new that they haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And I mean, I look a lot around the sort of, especially in the action sports kind of world, and certain types of films where there's a lot of amazing athletes out there, but they quite often make sort of very similar videos to one another. There's
a formula, isn't there?
Yeah, there's like a formula, you know, especially, I mean, I come from the bike world.
Yeah.
I look at a lot of, say, sort of street BMX, mountain bike, and saying mountain bike, you kind of get your classic shred it style video, if that's what you call it.
Yeah.
Where somebody basically goes to a bike park, over jumps all the jumps, smashes the turns.
Yeah.
Really cool, puts it to some, some fun music. But quite often, unless they've really done something insane, then
it's forgettable.
You forget about it. It's like ticking a box a little bit. Where with that same sort of skill set, you could maybe find a cooler location that stands out, or I don't know. I mean, that's something I really enjoy, or because I have the luxury. I mean, I'm not a competition athlete.
Yeah.
I'm not having to kind of. My world isn't basically trying to be on the podium.
Yeah. You've got the time, really, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
To think these things through, but then you've kind of earned the right for that time. And also, like when you came out, like you said earlier, it's 10 years. That was probably why that stood out so much, right? Because it definitely had a different, compared to the kind of bog standard stuff that you did, like you said, that most of these films are. It definitely stood out, didn't it? It's a different approach.
Yeah, I mean, that was a kind of, for me, the Inspired Bicycles film back in 2009 was a little bit of a perfect storm, let's say, because I've been riding for a long time, doing a lot of sort of trials kind of riding, but I'd also been quite interested in trying to do a few more BMX-y kind of tricks. Definitely influenced a lot by riders like Martin Ashton, Chris Hackrig, Hans Ray in the trials world.
Yeah.
And then also hugely influenced by my flatmate at the time, Dave Sowerby, who was a really shit-hot BMX rider, but also a really good filmmaker.
Yeah.
And had a big interest in, not just, when we'd watch the newest sort of BMX DVD, we wouldn't just be watching it to just watch the cool riding.
Yeah.
It'd be also look how cool the way that was edited to that song. And I started kind of getting a bit more of an interest in... Right.
So that was there from the start.
Yeah. I mean, there's films like there's a film called Grounded, Etney's Grounded, which had a huge impact on me. It's also the film Fully Flared back in 2008, skate film.
Yeah, Lakai.
The Lakai film. And, those films really kind of...
They're a package, aren't they, those films?
Yeah.
It's like the music, the creativity.
Yeah.
It's filmed well. It's like something like The End, isn't it? It's like a concept to it where it's a bit more than a skate film, or... Yeah.
Yeah, and it was also the kind of sort of types of music that were going on in there as well, like some of the kind of more emotive kind of styles of music rather than kind of just full on kind of writing and just writing or whatever the whole time. So that's kind of how Inspired kind of came around.
I was going to say, so you were purposely trying to, even at that time,
it wasn't ever
a package together.
A little bit. I mean, I had made a few kind of little films previous to 2009, but it was the kind of thing you'd go out and film for a day. It'd be like a day trip somewhere, and you wouldn't necessarily ever put any sort of real time into getting a good line down exactly how you wanted it.
Yeah.
Whereas when Dave offered to make the film or do a little bit of filming with me back in 2008, after he broke his leg, I kind of saw that as an opportunity to really try to, well, just put down some of the writing I'd always wanted to do in Edinburgh. Really, that was it. So we filmed for maybe 10 days. Managed to get a bunch of kind of clips in the bag, and that kind of gave me a foundation then to start kind of maybe set my sights a little bit higher.
Right.
And I started kind of thinking about things like trying to ride along top of a spiky fence, or flipping off the tree, or gapping between some rooftops, which was kind of fairly out there for me, you know, in terms of my riding level.
Really? So you were pushing yourself? Yeah,
it was kind of just stuff that, but I knew, I thought I could maybe at least give it a go, and even if I crashed, it was getting documented, so I'd never really had that before.
Right. So was that a big part of what pushed you then, the fact that like actually...
Yeah, I mean, it was very much personal, you know. It wasn't like I was doing it for other people to see. Yeah. It was more like I really want to just do the best I can, because getting to film with Dave was like a really sort of rare opportunity. Yeah, so you wanted to take advantage of that. Yeah.
So do you remember being pleased when you finished it? Do you remember thinking it represented what you were trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, we put the time, and we filmed, I think, about 25 days over 6 months or something like that through winter, Edinburgh winter, which wasn't easy. And I remember I ticked almost every box that I wanted to for the film. And then we were kind of deliberating on music. At one point we had the track, I think it had been used for Planet Earth at the time, that Hoppy Pola track, you know, by Sigur Rós. It was the rap by the Walkman. That was also in there. There was a few different ones, and I remember I went back off to Skye to cut the Peats with my dad, kind of classic Tuchter stuff. And when I got back, David, he'd been sat and he had picked the track. Yeah. You know, the Band of Horses. Yeah. The funeral. That's on. That's on. So yeah, I remember watching it and just being pretty sort of really happy with my writing. Yeah. Really, I mean, Dave's editing to that, you know, it's kind of got this like zoomy camera and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some real, like the way it all works together is, again, one of the reasons that it really stood out. The song choice is great, right? It like really, really worked.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the song probably makes up at least 50% of the video.
Yeah, well, but like you say, that's a big part of it, isn't it? Putting these things together. I mean, they're kind of seminal, aren't they? When you're a kid and you see those parts where the music like properly works with the riding, and yeah. So you've talked about it quite a lot, but it sounds like you were quite surprised by the response.
Oh yeah, massively. I mean, for me, like there was like one website pretty much in the world where like trials would congregate. You know, this was kind of almost pre-Facebook and all that kind of thing. There's a website called trialsforum.co.uk, and that was the kind of place that the trials community would upload their videos, and I thought, it'd be cool to show them what I'd been up to, because I knew it was something a little bit different. You know, not many folk had been able to spend that much time working on a video like that, and so that's where, you know, my sponsor at the time, Inspired Bicycles, they uploaded it to YouTube and popped it on to Trials Forum, and even on there it started having a little mini viral. You know, and it was really from that website it kind of then branched out into the mountain bike world, sort of the next day, and then from there it kind of started branching further afield, you know, and that was in the days where YouTube links were easily shared on Facebook, or I think it was before Facebook video player and all that sort of stuff. So that was YouTube was the only real YouTube and Vimeo was the only real players.
Well, it's kind of early days of Twitter as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So like I remember that was around the time I first started using Twitter, and that being one of the first like real viral things actually, where it seemed to transcend everybody. You know, you got people like Lance Armstrong sharing it, haven't you? And you know, something like global audience kind of thing.
Yeah, even like Stephen Fry and folk like that were retweeting it.
Yeah.
So it was, it was a funny one. It was really such a surprise, and I was definitely not ready for any of it at all. So
I met you about 4 months after that. I think we did that thing with Red Bull, And yeah, I remember chatting to you about it, and you were definitely a bit like, this is pretty mental. This is...
Yeah, well, it just really wasn't. It was never what we kind of made it for.
Yeah.
So we, I to be honest, I was already kind of booked up doing shows with a stunt team, or a trials team that I'd started with my friend called the Clan Scottish Cycle Stunt Team.
Right.
I had so many shows booked throughout the summer that I just sort of stuck to doing those. I had all these requests doing much more mainstream kind of events or talk shows and things like that. But for me, I just wanted to kind of let the dust settle a little bit before I started making any rash decisions.
Yeah, wise move, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely Dave's influences a little bit on that.
Really?
I mean, Dave's very much a core sort of BMX guy. And I kind of, which I have massive respect for. So it was kind of, I'd always kind of think to myself, well, I still to this day do the same thing with work.
Right.
I think, well, what would, if I was still working in the bike shop and I was watching somebody else doing what I'm doing, would I have respect for the...
Would you think it was shit?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I still to this day think that. I mean, there's sometimes you can be maybe too core and miss out on some really cool opportunities.
Yeah.
But I'm pleased I did that.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning there.
Yeah, well, because you then started working with people like Red Bull, right? And I guess that was when you had opportunities to do other projects. So it looked like you kind of chose them quite carefully.
Yeah, I was at the end of 2009. I took on some management.
Yeah.
Initially, there's a company called Resolution.
Yeah.
In Munich. It's Tarek Razuli, who's really involved in the mountain bike world, especially the freeride world. He used to be a freeride mountain biker himself, but unfortunately had a bad accident. Is sort of paraplegic now, but he does so much.
I didn't actually realise that.
Yeah, so he's done so much on the mountain. I mean, he's kind of did a lot of the big freeride events back in the day with Nissan, like the Qashqai series, and then a lot to do with a lot of the other events that are going, especially over in Europe.
Right.
All the big sort of freeride events.
Yeah.
And has managed quite a few of the freeride athletes as well. So for me, it was really important to be part of mountain biking.
Yeah.
I had some more mainstream management firms, let's say.
I bet you were getting offers left, right and centre at that point.
But I didn't want to be suddenly having to do credit card adverts or...
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, exactly. I've had plenty of those requests coming over the years. So it's...
Yeah, I bet. But yeah, you got to choose that carefully, haven't you? Because obviously, like you say, it came from a legitimate place, didn't it? You weren't trying to... You didn't go like, right, I'm going to make this video and get a huge profile. It was more a byproduct of what you did, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I just didn't want to end up kind of doing work that I was hating doing. So
yeah. So did you guys kind of actively plan it then? Did you sit down and think what's the best route here?
Yeah, Tarek had he was a Red Bull athlete, or still is an ambassador to this day. So in the beginning there was a number of energy drink sort of options, let's say.
Yeah.
Some of them were more clear than others. Red Bull was actually fairly like I'd met up with the athlete manager in the UK a number of times, Robbie Henderson, and I remember kind of couldn't decide if they would want a trials rider on board or not, and it was quite vague because the way that Red Bull work is they sort of get to know you first to make sure you're right for the brand, whereas maybe the other brands at the time were a bit more like, well, this is what we'll sort of pay you, we can give you this budget for this project. It's kind of a bit more straight up. Yeah. And I didn't really know the sort of difference in all that kind of stuff, but I remember humming and hawing a little bit in the beginning. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, I look back and I kind of, not laugh about it, but it was just the kind of opportunity I kind of got through Red Bull on that was, it's worked well for me, let's say,
Well, it looked like they gave you the freedom to then explore these things that you wanted to do and like have this creativity that you're talking about, like looking at the whole project, looking at location, music. Because also the thing that strikes me about them, the level of detail that you go to as well, even down to like, the outfits and the bikes like matching landscape and stuff like that. It's really well considered, right?
There is. Sometimes it's not as well considered as you might think.
Right.
But it's just sometimes luck. But yeah, the first video I did with Red Bull was the way back home, and it was actually Robbie Henderson that he mentioned the idea of actually going from Edinburgh back to Skye. I kind of done Inspired, which was a street video around Edinburgh, although it's not completely street. It sort of has trees and other stuff in it. It's definitely in the town. Whereas I knew if I tried to one-up myself in the next film, that would never... if I did the same Inspired video but just did an extra 180 in each trick, you're not going to get the sort of... Not that it's about trying to get the same reaction each time. Yeah,
but it sounds like you want to try and challenge yourself to do something.
Yeah, or if I'm gonna put the energy in, I may as well make it something sort of new and different. So I had this insane ambition to do this really cool video through, from Edinburgh back to Skye. I had crazy plans. Things like I had planned to jump off like 140-foot bridge, the Skye Bridge, into the sea off my bike. Right. I was going to rent SLA Flex for the day.
Right.
I had stuff on top of the coolants. I had...
Oh, right. So you had all these ideas at that point?
Yeah. I mean, I'd written down I actually broke my collarbone 3 times in 6 months just after signing with Red Bull. So Jesus. I had a lot of time to sit on my sofa and
Same one.
Same one.
Right.
So I had a lot of time to search through Google Images. I was basically trying to find man-made objects that were in the Scottish countryside. Things like dams, old ruins, foundations, telephone boxes. Things. It was important to find, I think, for me, things that people could relate to.
Yeah.
Because if you start kind of riding on rock and other stuff, then it can definitely be a little bit harder for people to get their head around. Whereas you ride on a telephone box,
everyone can look at it and go,
they know exactly what it is. So,
well, I think that's why the bike itself is so relatable as well, isn't it? Because everybody rides a bike. Everyone can actually put themselves in that position and be like, wow, okay, they can get how difficult it is.
Yeah, or you maybe watch it and you think, oh, I could give that a go, and then you jump on and then you're like, oh yeah.
So do you do that quite a lot with those projects, like put that level of research in when you're...
I try to, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I find having a good concept now, I mean, funnily, I wrote a book a few years ago, which is something I'm so far out the realms of what I would normally do.
Yeah.
But it kind of came about that I could write this sort of book. But one of the chapters was, the videos.
Yeah.
But I kind of realized when I'm writing that, that the concept was actually almost more important than the writing.
Really?
To me these days, which was a weird thing to admit. A good concept for me is something that is going to allow you to get really creative with the writing. Yeah. And it maybe sometimes lets you get away with tricks.
Gives you the platform.
Yeah, kind of give it to get away with stuff that you might not be able to, if it was a random, if I was front flipping over an exercise ball, let's say, in a gym or something, then I mean, in a gym environment, it could work, but it might not be that kind of legit. Yeah. But as part of like a bigger concept, if it was meant to be a toy on a kid's bedroom floor and we had a much bigger concept around it with lots of other things like that, then it kind of works or makes that concept come alive.
That's kind of interesting. Is that linked to the progression part of it as well? Then does it just as a rider, does it give you almost like permission in a way? Because you've mentioned a couple of things now. You've said like the first film, it was almost like the opportunity that you had to film and you were like, okay, that's going to push me to push my riding. Does it kind of help you progress that side of it as well?
Yeah, I mean,
by giving you the right context almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it kind of, in some ways it's an easy way out. I mean, the hard thing to do would be to go back and do a street film again and do it good enough, up my riding level high enough that it was, it had the same effect again. Whereas it's actually much easier, I find it a lot easier to kind of come up with these sort of different concepts. Right. And then come up with sort of sometimes more random riding, say doing a front flip over an exercise ball or a barrel roll over an exercise ball. Or I'm trying to think
hay bale.
Yeah, hay bale or log slides or deep, riding through a 6 foot deep puddle, or there's countless other ones.
Do you feel like because the way you phrase that, you said it's almost easier. So it sounds like a bit like sometimes you wonder if you're copping out a bit.
Well, it's not necessarily copping out. I don't know how to describe the way I feel about the films. I just really, really enjoy making them.
Yeah.
But I think after Inspired, and especially with The Way Back Home, I kind of realised that it was a challenge to make something that I was sort of happy with, and maybe something, if you started trying to make, say, viral videos, which is really not an important part of it for me,
No, secondary.
But I really enjoy the sort of challenge of working with my friends on making something that's not just going to work for the core scene, of trials and mountain bike, but something that if somebody's never seen mountain biking before ever comes across on the internet, they can kind of get it.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean?
Well, it's kind of worked as well, because when you look at the arc of the films, Way Back Home, the one on the Sky, The Ridge, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stuff like Cascadia, they're all really particular concepts, and they're all rooted in a place, definitely, and the riding relates to the place. It seems like you've had to really think about what you're going to do by the confines of where you are, and they do stand alone as things that people can get their head around, and they're all really different.
Yeah,
it looks like it's been successful from the outside.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's just been a lot of fun, but I see it's kind of using the skill set that I've got, even although I have progressed in the last 10 years for sure. I mean, I could probably still do all the riding, if I could take my 10-year-old or 10 years younger self, and I could have done all the same riding if I'd had the ideas for it. If you know what I mean, I was probably actually a better rider probably 10 years ago.
Right.
Realistically, if I was less creaky than I am today. Yeah. But I don't know. I just sort of see it as a good use of my sort of abilities, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because if I was trying to one up myself, and I see it a lot, as I hope nobody takes offense when they're listening to it, but I see it a lot in other sports where people are doing the same as everybody else a lot, and then it's insane, and it'll be the core that really respects it, which I think is very commendable, but if you just give it a little bit of a tweak, say a little bit of content, I mean, there's a lot of really good content out there that also does this, but you do a little bit of a tweak, or maybe be a little bit more creative than adding an extra spin into something, or
just make it purely about the progression. You
can do something that the core is gonna really respect, but then you might have a little bit more opportunity just outside of that as well, or you don't have to. I mean, it's seeing the risk or I've watched a lot of skateboarding, and some of the stuff. I mean,
these days it's
insane,
it's ludicrous,
insane. And it's the craziest things, and they go all in for a part, and I don't know really what I'm saying. It's hard. I mean, it's just the risk to reward can be a little bit sort of lower.
Yeah, well, I think you can.
It just depends what you're into, I suppose.
Yeah, but I think the ones that stand out are doing what you're saying, though. If you look at someone like Travis Rice, just as an example, it's got same thing, got the package, got the riding, the progression, but also the kind of creative element to it, which does help it transcend. The core is obviously going to love it, but equally anyone can kind of relate to it, and it makes it just something a bit above, doesn't it?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And it's usually the most creative stuff. I mean, if you look at sometimes that's not always it might be a bit frustrating for some folk, but I mean, some of my favorite skaters are folk like Richie Jackson.
Amazing.
The sort of land pirate, I don't know what you'd call him. And then
but he gets a lot of shit, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's quite outspoken on the old internet these days. Sometimes you're you kind of just want to chill out on that a wee bit, maybe. But
well, he's kind of living it, isn't he?
Yeah, and then you've got in BMX, there's Tate Roscoe or Eric Elstron. Those guys have had a huge influence on me. Also Stephen Hamilton back in the day.
Yeah.
And many more. There's many more guys. But those ones are the sort of more creative stuff tends to transcend into the mainstream more. Not that's what it's all about at all, because you can get, cat videos get millions and billions of views, or
this gate
people
play
follow.
smells like Teen Spirit. 50 million views.
The internet is absolute rubbish. I mean, YouTube is so full of complete trash, and like the weirdest stuff goes viral.
Yeah.
But it's cool if you could do something that you're really proud of, put a lot of energy into, something that you like to think still kind of got your kind of core values.
Yeah.
But it still manages to sort of transcend into the mainstream as well. It hopefully gives people a bit more than watching, I don't know, somebody clotheslining themselves in a washing line or something. I don't know, whatever it is that goes viral tomorrow.
You've mentioned the core a few times. Is that, and obviously you're pretty aware of that. Have you ever felt any kind of kickback from that, or have you managed to? I
mean, I come from a very sort of mellow scene in mountain biking. We're very
supportive.
Supportive. I mean, in some ways, sometimes maybe a little bit. Even in trials, sometimes there's maybe not enough trash talk about some. They're almost too forgiving. I think a little bit of quality control is a good thing. You know,
that's kind of what it's about. That it starts from that good, honest place, doesn't it? You know, being like, right, we got to protect it and make sure it's done in the right way. But sometimes it can
get nasty.
Become snobbery, basically, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, on some sites in BMX, it would be sort of real nasty. The smallest thing, everything's getting brought up. Yeah. I mean, mountain biking is the opposite. I would say it's very, it's got very open arms with all videos and content, and unless it's e-bike related.
Right.
Yeah. It's
you got one?
Yeah. Not yet. I bloody wish. I mean, Santa Cruz don't make an e-bike. They're kind of definitely in the core. I would ride one in a heartbeat. Yeah. So I'm all about just mucking about and having fun. The more time I can spend going downhill, the better, I would say. But maybe one day, but I don't think it'll be anytime soon.
No. So I wanted to ask you about Skye, because obviously the Ridge seemed like it was, in a way, a bit of a kind of homage to where you're from as well, as much as about the riding. It seemed like it's a really important part of the things that you do, like showcasing your home environment, and is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm definitely a Skye man through and through. Yeah, it's definitely still home where my parents live, up in Dunvegan, and it's probably a cooler place than ever for me. A lot of my friends moved away after school, kind of classic, go away to study, traveling or whatever, but so many of them moved back and are kind of doing a lot more with the island. It used to be quite a kind of pub culture. Right. People would work and go to pub, which is nothing wrong with.
Kind of small town British thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But there's definitely a lot more, they're doing a bit more active stuff on the island, going up in the mountains, kind of getting in the sea. And, Skye's got so much to offer like that, which is really cool. And for me, kind of going back and making the films there has been, something that's really cool for me. I mean, the cool at the Ridge was something it wasn't like I'd been dreaming about it for years. Right. But, like I was saying about trying to make films that are a little bit different each time, I thought, well, I've not done anything on the mountain bike before. Yeah. So myself and my friend Stu Thompson, who runs a company, Cut Media, we decided we'd get a little bit of budget together and go and make a wee film up on the Coolins, which I had never actually been to the top of before. Right. And it really sort of, I don't know, couldn't believe the way it turned out in the end, actually. It was one of the easiest films I think we've made. Burnt a lot of calories walking, but the actual riding, compared with doing these technical tricks down at a lower level, the riding for me up there was actually pretty straightforward. Right. And you do a 20-second run with a drone flying above you, and you've got 20 seconds of footage. That doesn't happen when you're riding street.
Bit less labour intensive.
And we were really lucky with the weather as well. So, but there was one moment when I was stood on top of this sort of pinnacle, inaccessible pinnacle, it's called. It's like
it's like the cover sort of shot.
Yeah, and it's the sort of most famous part of the Black Coolins, I would say. There was a time when I stood on top of that with my bike, with the drone flying around, with the mist wisping over the top, and I was thinking, this is seriously cool. Yeah. There was a little bit of kind of home, sounds cheesy, but I was like, not homecoming, but I was like, this is how I want to show off,
Yeah.
like home.
Has your relationship with it changed as you've got older? Because you kind of left quite young, right? So
No, I would say I appreciate it more than I did. I think everybody maybe does that, or maybe not, depending where you come from. But
starts to sort of see home a bit differently as they get a bit older.
Yeah, you take it for granted.
Yeah.
When you're, I was on the school bus every day looking at these views. I wasn't often thinking, oh man, look how beautiful this island is. You're more just bothered about doing your maths homework or whatever. But now I kind of realise what a cool place it is. And especially it's the people, it's like anywhere, it's the people that make the place. And all my friends, I'd say I can honestly say I've got like 40 really close friends that live all over the island. Yeah. So when you go home, there's always something to do, and it's just a really good time. They're all a bit mad.
And how was it learning to ride there?
It was just, I suppose, like anywhere. I grew up in a small village. I was lucky to actually have street lights. Yeah. All in the modern age, yeah. And so a lot of my friends lived outside the village, in more rural areas. So I would kind of go out by myself at night and practice my skids and wheelies under the streetlights in the long dark winters. And just bikes were always a big part of what I did with my friends when I was younger. Yeah. We had a lot of energy as kids, like any kids.
Well, I've read your book, and it sounds like there's a lot of fireworks going on, and
I really honestly feel I feel very lucky to have grown up somewhere that we had so much space.
Yeah, you could kind of let it all out a bit by the sounds of it.
If we were in an inner city, then for sure I wouldn't be where I am now. That's for sure. I'd probably be locked up if I had that much energy. So.
Did you have was it quite sort of destructive in a way? Needed an outlet.
I'm sure everybody's got that in them, that you like seeing things destroyed or destroying things. It's
part of the game.
Things like rolling boulders off cliffs, or blowing up cars, or ragging cars around fields and things like that. We wouldn't be stealing them, obviously. We'd be going to there would often be like an old car next to like an old croft house, and we'd go chap on their door and ask if we could tow it away for them or pay them 50 quid for it or something, and
go rag it.
Yeah, we'd go take it over to a field that my parents had, and it would usually last a day before it was on its roof and on fire or something like that. But it was an amazing place to grow up. Lucky to have the freedom for that.
And when did you kind of realise you were getting good? Like, because I'm guessing. Well, again, and I know from reading the book, essentially you spent 10 years practicing all day long, every day, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Putting that time in, and developing what eventually became this kind of skill set that you referred to earlier.
Yeah, I think there's that time where there's a few films that I grew up watching. There's films like Tricks and Stunts. It's like a how-to video with Martin Ashton, Martin Hawes, or Chain Spotting, which had a big influence on me back in 97, 98. That's how I kind of first got into trials. And then there was some more recent ones, like Ryan Leach's film Manifesto. That was another trials film, and that had a big impact on me because he basically tried to take the hops out of trials. Right. And that's something that really stuck. It's like one lesson that stuck with me a lot from that was trying to make trials a little bit more aesthetically pleasing on video. Yeah, so sure. Rather than getting to the edge of something
and just hopping,
pogo stick in there for a while, trying to get your kind of shit together before you do the gap, you try to just do it all in one, like just do it as efficiently as you can. But there was around, I don't know, maybe 2003, 2004, there was a few videos that were coming out, and then when your writing level starts kind of getting close, you could start imagining doing the writing that some of your heroes are doing. Let's say they're still they're still on a different level, but there was a little bit of that kind of time where you'd watch series like Drop-In TV as well, which is a really cool series on Extreme Channel back in the day, which had some trials riders, and there was some of the guys in there sometimes think, oh, I could do that, or maybe I could even do sometimes maybe more. But it was never a goal of mine to be a professional street trials rider or I never had a dream even of being a professional writer.
I was going to say, it probably wasn't even really on the radar, right? As something that you could. It's not exactly like being a footballer, right? Well, you know what I mean, where there's like a clear path that you can follow. If you want to do that, or even skateboarding, snowboarding, you can look at it and go like, oh yeah, I could be like that guy. Presumably, there wasn't really that context to it.
There was some magazines in the UK, like Mountain Bike UK, which really did a good job of building up your heroes. Like I said, Martin Ashton, Martin Hawes, Steve Peat, Rob Warner, number of other guys, Chris Ackrig as well, big. But they kind of built these guys up into kind of idols.
Yeah.
Every month you couldn't wait to get your subscription and see what was going on in the world. So you did see people that were able to make a living from writing.
Yeah.
But it was never something that I don't know. I just never even had it as a goal.
Right. What did you think you would do?
My main goal was when I left school, because I knew there was nothing that I was into enough to study. That was going to keep me off my bike, basically. If it was a sunny day, for sure, I'd be out riding my bike rather than doing a dissertation or something like that. Yeah. So I'd always wanted to go work in a bike shop called Bothy Bikes in Aviemore.
Right.
That was a really cool shop, sold like coolest bikes, and I kind of knew that was something I wanted to do. So that's what I did in 2003,
right,
early 2003. And I used to just ride my bike on my lunch breaks after work, just ride for fun all the time.
Right.
And then after I kind of got a little bit bored of the riding, eventually in Aviemore, I moved into Edinburgh to kind of have a new landscape to ride. And I worked in a bike shop called McDonald Cycles there for a few more years. And that's when I made the Inspired Bicycle film.
Yeah.
But never to make, it was never going to be a sponsor me video or anything like that. I was doing quite a few shows around Scotland at agricultural shows and in schools as well. We did a lot of work in schools around that time. So yeah, it just it worked out.
Yeah.
I was kind of always of the belief, if you were good enough at something, then the right people would take notice.
Yeah, if you just put the work in and kind of gave yourself that platform.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the right way to think, because I'm sure there's been there's a lot of professionals out there that have gone and got it. They've gone and got on the right company's radars, by going. But I think a lot of kids nowadays are maybe getting a bit too bothered about, they need to get a sponsor.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I actually think it kind of is the right way to think, because I think I almost think you have to learn that, don't you? That when you're younger, you see the end goal as the point. You know what I mean? You think like you're talking about, like, right, I want to be sponsored, and that's the thing, but you don't kind of realise that actually if you want to get there, there's a lot of work you've got to do, and that's almost the point, isn't it? So
yes.
If you've got that in your head as like, I'm just going to concentrate on that, that's probably quite a healthy place to be, really.
Yeah, for sure. You have to be riding your bike because you love doing it.
Yeah.
I think that's you're never going to get good at something, or you could if you had just some strict parents that were making you do it or whatever. You might get good at an instrument that way.
Yeah.
Which is the same as a bike, but I don't know.
Well, it still comes down to like commitment, doesn't it?
Yeah, you just have to put your time in,
Yeah.
And I try, even to this day, I still try not to. I try not to make my bike like a job.
Right. Yeah.
I try not to view it like I should do.
Right.
I'm certainly doing a level where I definitely should be doing that, but I try to keep it so it's still fun, and I'm maybe just not as organized about everything as I should be, but
yeah,
I think that's important. Otherwise, I'm just, as soon as I stop enjoying being on it and I'm just doing it, say I'm doing a project just because I'm getting paid to do it or something like that, then it's never going to be as good.
Yeah, it'll probably come out in the end product as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. The main big videos that you're seeing there are definitely sort of passion projects.
Yeah, well, they'd need to be, wouldn't they? Mm-hmm. Especially, it kind of brings me quite nicely to another question that I had, because obviously when you do these projects, it's a huge time commitment, and it's clearly like hundreds of hours of, especially like certain tricks and certain situations, and you kind of use, with interviews that I've read, and sometimes you can use words like it's stressful, like getting yourself to the point where you can achieve these things, or it can feel like it's quite pressured. is that part of it? Is that a necessary part of it? You know, if you've got some, because you mentioned earlier about setting these goals that can be really, you know, you don't know how you're going to achieve them. You've got to go through this problem solving part of it. Do you feel a pressure to do it? Are you putting that pressure on yourself?
I mean, sometimes, I mean, they're always very much sort of personal goals. You know, I mean, you look at what some folk are up to in the world and you think, I mean, you look at some of the buildings that people are building or some of the projects people take on and you think, how on earth can a human sort of deal with that kind of pressure? Whereas I'm just making little tricks for a video, my own little video kind of thing, but it's my own kind of goals. Pressure wise, it's funny how the tricks always seem to, the sort of bangers for the videos always seem to have the same process. They all seem to take multiple days.
Really?
I don't know why that is. I mean,
that's something that you've recognised as it's gone on.
Yeah, I think so. You know, if you looked at a sort of trend, I think if it almost wasn't that hard, then unless you've come up with a really good idea, you know, what I'd sort of call good bang for your buck. Something if you come up with a really good idea, then you know, sometimes something you can do in a day. But then, you know, I also take a lot of inspiration. Like recently, I've been watching quite a lot of climbing stuff online, and
that's quite a similar process, right?
Well, similar, but not even close. Not, I wouldn't say on my level. Not in terms
of
like
close. Time commitment, though, you know.
Oh, their stuff's it's ridiculous.
What's the Tommy
Caldwell?
Have you seen the Dawn Wall?
Yeah,
that traverse, that traverse section.
That's a good example of it. Yeah, so that's what I was actually going to say. Or Adam Ondra is doing. You know, it's when those guys are at the sort of cutting edge of their, or not even. You don't even have to be at the cutting edge. It's like setting their. You know, if a climber's basically wanting to do the next grade up. Yeah. Quite often they're basically working on these projects for years.
Yeah. Well, that section when his partner, I can't remember his name now. I think he's an Adidas guy, isn't he?
Oh, what's his name? I should know it.
Yeah, you know, but that section when he's trying to get that traverse and it's going on for weeks and there's cameras on him and all that. Like watching that was so brilliant because that was like a really, you know, you really got like how deep he was having to dig and, you know, he's proper dredging it up to do it, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I find like hugely inspiring, you know, and I'm like, well, I need to come up with, I'd love to come up with some stuff in biking that had that
level of commitment almost.
Yeah, it was like a line, you know, maybe I have to be above water or something, or I don't know what it is exactly, but you
really
know,
that's what you kind of think.
Well, I don't know, it'd just be cool. Yeah, you know, I think it's just so cool that they're that committed. You know, they're able to put the time in, and they're that committed because climbing, like the same as pretty much all extreme sports, is fair. It's very much like a personal goal. It's quite pointless in a lot of ways. Like most sport, it's like, you know, you're doing it. I mean, it's not pointless because there's lots of people. If you're in a part of a community, they're all thinking, oh yeah, that's cool.
But it's a kind of an end to itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an end to itself. But it's funny with sport. I mean, it's like the videos and stuff. It's odd. It's an odd thing, but it's so cool the commitment that they put in. And even like, I mean, climbing, you're really having to think about what weight you're at, and you know, being in. You train your ass off over winter to be at the level to get that next diet. And I am very far from that kind of mindset.
Well, but that's why that film's so fascinating, because I think everybody's far from that, aren't they? When you see that level of application and commitment, it is impressive, really. I think I enjoyed that more than Free Solo, actually, that film.
I think if they were able to film Free Solo, I mean, obviously they had multiple days, and they could get much more. Yeah, of course, different setup. Yeah, I mean,
and also here's me going like, I didn't really like Free Solo.
I mean, imagine being able to see. I think it's hard to grasp the level of what Alex Honnold will achieve in that. You know, even though you see it in video, see if you saw like, if you could see a one take clip of him, going all the way up there, I think it'd be the most insane. It's like one of the most insane feats I think anybody's ever
I think
achieved.
so, and it sounds really stupid, but I think the fact that he didn't die almost diminishes it in some way, because it makes it seem like almost straightforward. Do you know what I mean? Like, because the stakes are so high, and it's basically he's either going to live or he's going to die. Yeah, and he lived. So it doesn't. It's almost like you don't appreciate quite what was at stake with it all because he pulled it off.
It's when you see the reaction of his friends,
filmer,
or his friends there, and no wonder. But it's when you sort of say Tommy talking or whatever, Tommy Caldwell, and he's talking about the level, even of the climbing that he's doing there, and like, I don't know. Again, that's another person. I don't have many heroes in the world, I wouldn't say. Or out with bikes.
Yeah, sure.
But Alex Honnold's definitely up there. I'd love to have a chat with him one day.
Yeah, he's pretty impressive individual. Definitely.
Just crazy stuff. Yeah, I do enjoy watching all his content. So.
Yeah. So you talked about the injuries earlier, and you kind of casually mentioned, I broke my collarbone like 3 times in 6 months, and you mentioned your knee and stuff, and it's a big part of it, right? Is that? Are you just good at accepting that? The fact that you're going to get injured and you're going to have to mentally deal with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think injury is part of any sport. It doesn't matter if you're, on doing athletics, if you're climbing, surfing, whatever sport you're doing. If you're pushing yourself, you're going to get injuries. I mean, like trials is actually quite slow speed. Generally it's something that you can get out of fairly easy as long as you're kind of calm about it. You can kind of get yourself out of things,
right?
So I would say the hours to injury rate is fairly low.
Okay.
I don't know,
so you can kind of square it
sometimes, something like that. But then I also have broken, there must be almost 30 bones or something like that over the years, so it's and lots of it's I don't know, it's just part of it. I mean, a little, if you break something, it's just going to be 6 weeks. You can probably channel that energy into something hopefully constructive, like scouting the next project.
Well, I was going to say, it sounds like that's a good creative time.
Or even healing up other injuries as well. So you might have like a niggling ankle injury or knees or whatever else, so you can maybe do a little bit of rehab stuff on that, which I'm not the best at, if I'm honest. I don't have the gym very well programmed into me. It's a chore. It's a chore. Yeah, it's a chore for me, for sure.
Fun, basically.
Yeah. But I mean, I need to look at the site, But it definitely gives you a good what's the word I'm looking for? Just gives you some drive, to get into the gym, get back on your bike as soon as you can, and get out to doing the fun stuff again as soon as possible. So
and how much thought do you put into the music? Because that seems like that's a really, really important part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Music's a massive drive. I would say in just my entire life, it's become a massive drive.
Right.
When I first started writing to music back just before I left Sky, what would it be like late, maybe 2001 or something like that. I used to use my mum's cassette player.
Right.
And I would record some albums, like had that Faithless, was it 8 p.m. Saturday 8 p.m. or something, Sunday 8 p.m. I can't remember what it was. Or when I listen to that, it just makes me think of riding wet streets around Dunvegan.
Our music's so amazing for that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the way that it can completely, you can hear a song and you can just instantly remember like where you first heard it.
Well, that's the thing that's so cool about music, is it has that effect on the brain. I don't know what it is that, I mean, listen to good music for me is like, it's as good as eating the best thing you've ever eaten. Or, I don't know how, it's such a weird thing, but
I can definitely remember where I was when I heard certain songs and like what the environment was and what I was thinking and how it made me feel, and kind of like smelling that way. Sometimes you kind of get a smell and you're like, Jesus, like, sort of takes you back somewhere, doesn't it?
Well, that's why the music's so important for the videos that you're making, and getting the right music to fit the tone that you're thinking, especially if it's like a concept. It's really important to match the music, and where say the funeral matched the writing that was going on in Inspired Bicycles so well, or we tried to do more of a slapstick one round the countryside, so we kind of chose the National Express by Divine Comedy
one, wasn't it? That worked really well actually, because that's not like super obvious, especially for them, isn't it? But it did work really well.
I mean, it's something that I'll spend it probably takes me longer to find the tracks than it does to, or I'll spend every evening, every morning driving to whatever, just trying to find music. I mean, it's pretty much from when I get up in the morning till I go to bed at night, I'll be listening to music, especially if I've got a project on the go. I'm always trying to find that perfect track.
Right. Okay. So again, you're putting that work in, basically.
Oh man, I mean, it's so, but I mean, like, it's got to the point where everything I listen to, you are visualizing the video that would go to it, so you can imagine. Like, I'm not really an editor, it's such, like, I don't actually sit behind, but how writing, I don't know, you can just imagine the film that would, maybe in terms of like a location you've once seen, or
Right.
tricks, or the way an intro would go together. It's just such a big part of the way I think these days. It's all music driven.
Have you got ideas from it? Have you heard songs and kind of thought, right, I've got an idea for a new concept?
I'm trying to think if there's, yeah, for sure. I mean, I've got lots of ideas. Like, I use Spotify these days, which has completely changed my world, really. I think probably for most people, you kind of get a bit complacent.
Well, probably not the musicians and their songwriting credits.
No, I know, no, for sure. Like, I don't.
Apart from them,
yeah,
like,
no,
I know what you mean. It is an incredible resource, isn't it? Like, it's.
Oh, I mean, before you'd have to, if you were lucky, you could maybe rummage through somebody's CD collection.
Yeah.
And get, like, you might find 5 new artists or something like that.
Yeah.
That you, but now you can just smash through so much different music and genres and.
Yeah, when I was, it's amazing how quickly it's changed as well, isn't it?
Sorry,
it's all right. Because I remember I'm early 40s, and like when I was a kid, you'd hear of a band, and then you couldn't hear them because you could never find the records. So you like read of a band or whatever, and then no one you'd know would have the music, so you'd have to. You might find someone that had a record or whatever. So to go from that in like 20 years to like every song ever, it's pretty
insane.
incredible, really.
It's like anything, when you have a lot of something as well, you get really complacent.
Yeah.
I have so many music playlists that are saved into different categories, with ideas for videos or a certain video you're, and I'm maybe putting at least 10 new songs or artists into my Spotify somewhere in the list every day.
Yeah.
But even at that level of new music, you still find yourself like, I need to keep finding more. You're never happy.
Yeah, it's endless.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy with it, but.
So you mentioned the book earlier, and it sounds like that was a mission. How did you find doing that?
Oh man.
Because are you dyslexic?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so
pretty dyslexic.
So that's quite a thing to take on, to sort of decide you're gonna. Well, I guess you didn't just decide, but that must have been quite a challenge.
I'd had the offer a few times from Penguin to do a book, and to be honest, it was something I turned down a bit, because when you're writing a book, especially an autobiography, you're thinking, well, I kind of need to have had quite a lot of life experience to do that, and it was something I kind of kept on turning down, and mainly because I don't read books.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that it's a bit of a sad fact, really, because there's so much good stuff out there. But because I don't read books, I don't really know I don't know what I like, or how I could put it together. Whereas I'm so used to having so much control over how we make the videos.
Yeah.
Like locations, style, music, editing, everything. I know exactly, or I've kind of got that formula quite kind of dialed.
Yeah, you're comfortable with that kind of form, and
whereas with this book, I was like, well, mainly what happens if it's shit, and it's probably going to be shit if I don't know because I don't know how to put it. But obviously there's people out there that can help you with that. So,
yeah, like structuring and what you're gonna. Yeah, well,
yeah.
It's like anything. It's just an entirely new world, isn't it? That you got to get your head around.
Yeah. So we so I worked with a ghostwriter, Matt, and it was quite a process.
Did you enjoy it?
It was that's the tricky one.
Yeah,
because it's not like a film where you can, again, I mean, it's the only book I've actually read cover to cover, which is a really sad thing to say. And it was, the hard thing was that the story, because I basically tell stories kind of like this, you know, I'd basically just tell tales, and then
he put it into a format kind of thing.
He kind of put it in the format, but he kind of had a sort of certain style where you kind of spruced up
Yeah.
some of the tales, which I wasn't really too into.
Right.
And didn't quite have some of the, probably made it more readable. I don't know, that's not probably the word. What's the word? But anyway, it was easier to read for some people,
Yeah.
or more mainstream audience. But I was kind of like, well, if I'm going to write it down, I just want it to sound like
you.
Exactly like me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a difficult process, and I did quite a lot of editing, even just with my flatmate, just bashing away in the flat, kind of doing it. But I don't know, it's the kind of thing. It's cool. It's out there. And I think
such a lot of work though. Doing those things.
It was weird, but it was a lot of work. But compared with the films, it wasn't. That was the thing. It almost wasn't enough work.
Right.
It was more just kind of felt like you were on like churning something out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it probably felt a little bit more like work as well. Like
I don't know. It was a weird thing.
Yeah.
And it was just because I couldn't, don't know, kind of quality control it.
Yeah. No,
like
I understand.
In a certain way, but it's cool. I mean, I've got a lot of good feedback over, of it, and I mean, I quite like the idea of some sort of young teenager or whatever reading it, and then kind of just sort of, maybe I don't know what they would maybe get from it, but just, I mean, talk a lot about obviously growing up in the sky and all that kind of freedom.
Yeah.
And kind of getting out there, but it's sort of getting out there and doing stuff.
Yeah.
But it'll take me a while to be able to kind of pick up again and.
Sure. Yeah, well, that can happen when you've got those projects, can't it?
But it's done.
Got to leave them for a while.
There's time for another one somewhere down the line.
So, well, final question, which is an obvious one, but what's next then? What's the next project?
Next project, well, I've had a kind of quiet couple of years really. 2018 was a slow year for me because I broke my kneecap filming a big project end of 2017, and that didn't really. It gave me a lot of issues all through 2018. I had to get another operation on it 2018.
What did they do to that then?
I luckily didn't need to get it wired up when I broke it.
It's making me cringe at the thought of it.
It's not that sore. I mean, I had knee pads on, so it dulled any big bruising, but I kind of shattered the kneecap. But luckily didn't need to get wired, which was good. But then when I'd done that, when it healed up, I had a little bit of damage to the cartilage underneath it, so they had to go in and do a wee arthroscopy just before Christmas last year. So this year I've done a couple of films, did a new one with Adidas.
Because you just
signed with Adidas. Which has been cool. So I'm kind of pretty hungry. I also launched a wee video, Danny Daycare. Also. Which is another sort of fun-based kind of thing.
Well, that had a lot of humour in it, didn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, they're like fun, but that was a long-term project, personal, kind of like The Ridge. It was like a personal project. But I really want to put out some more films. This year's been fairly dominated with drop and roll. Yeah. Kind of just sort of getting back into the swing of things, writing-wise. But I've got a project plan with GoPro, hopefully. October kind of time. Should be something quite cool, something new for me. I also fancy with Adidas, I'm really fancying doing something in Asia as well. Right.
They're massive in China, aren't they?
So it's kind of something that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons I was really into working with Adidas. Yeah. Because they're so big in the Asian market. And kind of maybe open up some budgets over there to be able to go and do some really cool stuff.
Great Wall.
Yeah, it's just a different world, especially China. It's like it may as well be the moon, because they don't have any of our social media platforms that we have over here. Yeah. Some of it might filter over, but chances are they've not seen many bike films like the stuff some of us have been making, kind of thing. So it'd be cool to do some stuff over there.
Yeah, it's mad. You've been there, right? China.
Yeah, I've only been to Shanghai. It wasn't like a proper China experience, quite high end.
I went to Beijing and I had like 2 days in Beijing on my own, and it was actually great because like you can't get on the internet, can you? You've got no social, so I was a bit like, phone didn't really work. It's a bit like, wow, it's probably like the most actually remote I've been in about 15 years. Quite enjoyed it. It's quite nice. Yeah, mad culture shock, definitely.
Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to doing some more work. I mean, when I was over there, it was for like an awards ceremony and stuff, so it was not really seeing the real China kind of thing. But kind kind of opened my eyes though, seeing the sort of the way that all the sort of platforms work out there, and be cool to maybe try to get some viral stuff going over in China. Maybe.
Yeah, right.
We'll see. Also, I've always wanted to do something in Japan.
Right.
Like even since I worked in the bike shop down in just down the road here, used to play Alphaville big in Japan.
Right.
As a joke. We'd always joke about just making a video to that there. So maybe one day. But yeah, I mean, for the foreseeable future, I'd like to just sort of carry on making films. Maybe like to focus a little bit more on making a few more films if I can, if my body lets me. Yeah. Just because I've got too many ideas to get down on that, so I just sort of need to get on with it. Yeah. Because I've only got, there's maybe like a certain few years at the sort of top end, the cutting edge of the sort of trials riding.
Yeah, is that how you feeling?
A little bit. I'd like to
34 now?
I'll be 34 this year. Yeah. No, I'd like to think I've got a solid few years yet, but you never know. Yeah. All it takes is one stupid injury and it might kind of limit you a bit. But I'd like to just I really want to do the best I can while I can. So
yeah. So you're going to ride today?
Yeah, I'm going to be riding, see how this little leg holds out. It was actually pretty good. It's not been swelling too much, which is pretty handy. And I'm going to send off my scans to see if my meniscus needs chopped out. But for now, it seems to be all right.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing it, man. Good
Cheers.
to chat.
Excellent.
Yeah, nice one. So there you go. That was me and Danny, and I hope you enjoyed it. And what a lovely, charming lad he is, eh? And what a privilege to get his take on the whole mad last decade. Obviously, I would really recommend you check out all his films and follow him on Insta, because the lad's a legend and his work continues to astonish. Thanks also to my friend Till for his help in setting this one up. Big help there, Till. Appreciate it. So there's no housekeeping corner for this one, given that it's, a special episode. So if you want more, then head on over to episode 100B with Nicholas Muller right now, and I'll see you there. Go on. Nice one.